Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and Tim, and doing the Weather Painters deck. So I'm really excited for this deck because this deck is a super cool deck that actually works with columns, which not that many decks work with columns. It was actually released in the same pack as the Magical Musketeers, where they use columns as well, along with Six Samurais, but it's a really cool deck to be able to just normal summon out your monsters, get searches, and then depending on what zone your monsters are in, under these spells and traps, they get particular abilities, which is kind of cool. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there soon come part of notification squad, and definitely check out that Patreon down in the description below because we have some awesome rewards for you guys, like getting your name in the description of every single video, getting assigned cards into the mail, or even getting to request a deck profile every single month that you're a patron, just like this one. So without further ado guys, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're playing the best one, and that is the Weather Painter Snow. So the Weather Painter Snow is essentially the searcher of the deck that when this card is normal summoned, you can place the Weather spell or trap directly from your deck face up in your spell and trap card zone. And you only use your effect once per turn. And then once per turn during the standby phase of the turn after this card was banished from the field to activate the Weather card's effect, you can special summon this card that was banished. Which all of your Weather Painters share that ability because a lot of your monsters have, or a lot of your spells and traps banish them to trigger effects. And that all share that ability to banish themselves when they're banished by their own effect or a Weather card. Then you get to special summon them back later. Then we play 3 copies of the Weather Painter Thunder. Weather Painter Thunder is really neat because you can send to face up a continuous spell or trap to your graveyard to place the Weather spell or trap from your deck face up in your spell and trap card zone, which is really cool. It does cost, whereas Snow just puts it there, but it's really cool to have that extra effect, and then it also shares that ability that comes back. We then play 2 copies of the Weather Painter Sun. The Weather Painter Sun is pretty good too because if this card is in your graveyard, you can send a continuous spell or trap you control to the graveyard to special summon this card back in defense position, and you place the Weather spell or trap from your hand face up in your spell and trap card zone, and you can only use the effect if it's once per turn. Then we play 2 copies of the Weather Painter Cloud. The Weather Painter Cloud, if a face up the Weather card you control is sent to the graveyard, you can target up to 2 Weather spell or traps in your graveyard and place them face up in your spell and trap card zone. So if you get rid of 1, you get 2 back in its place with Cloud, which is pretty good. I like that ability just to get those additional cards back. We then play 3 copies of the Weather Painter Rain. Weather Painter Rain might as well be a vanilla, but she's pretty good in the deck because you want to have her in the deck to give recursion and have more of the Weather monsters. Because the deck doesn't have the red one yet. It's the only color in the rainbow that the deck is actually missing, unfortunately. But maybe in the future pack we'll actually get it. Because if this card is special summoned, you can place the Weather spell or trap from your hand and in your face up spell and trap card zone. You only use your effect once per turn. So you don't really use that effect that much. You're just going to basically use her to special summon to your side of the field. She can help you get your traps out faster, but she's pretty good at that. Then we play a single copy of the Weather Painter Aurora, which is pretty good as well. When this card is normal summoned, you can place the Weather spell or trap from your hand, deck, or graveyard face up in your spell and trap card zone, and your opponent cannot target the Weather spell or traps you control with card effects, and also they cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects either. And then once per turn, if during your standby phase after this card was banished, to activate a Weather spell or trap, you can special summon her back, which is pretty good. Then we play 3 copies of Ash Blossom just to stop our opponent from hitting us with different stuff, like searching from deck or doing stuff like that. You just don't want them to be able to do that. We then play 2 copies of Nibiru as well, because usually our monsters are banished off the field, so we're not that worried about hitting cards on the field. Nibiru is usually always live in this deck, because you can just draw it, and then if your opponent special summons a bunch, you just drop Nibiru and handle it. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. I really wish they'd make a Link monster for this deck. I know we have one, but I really wish we'd have like a Bob Ross-ish card, because this is Bob Ross the deck. Let's be honest, guys. So we're going to be playing 3 copies of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is really good because you just stop your opponent from hitting you with hand traps, because like Snow searches and you're going to try and special summon them back, and you want to be able to resolve their effects. We play 3 copies of the Weather Snowy Canvas, which is basically like their art canvases. They each have one, which is pretty cool. But the weather effects in your main monster zones of this card's column and the adjacent columns gain the additional effects. So really quickly to explain to you guys how that actually works, let me move these spells off the screen. And basically what it does is if you have the Weather Snowy Canvas here, and you have a copy of your monsters here, here, and here, the Canvas gives these 3 monsters the ability, but if it's here, this monster will not get the effect, and if it's here, then this monster will not get the effect. These monsters will get the effects if it's here. So that's basically what it means by if it's adjacent, which is kind of cool. It's kind of weird, but it's kind of cool, and I like the gimmick of it, because not a lot of people know how to play around this deck, which is kind of weird. But it has the ability that you can banish this card, and then quick effect, you can add a weather card from your deck to your hand. And you can only you cannot add cards from your deck to your hand for the rest of the turn except for drawing them. So basically what that means is it gives the monster that effect. This card has the effect to give that monster that it's in the zones that effect, essentially, which is the way that it works. It's kind of neat. It's kind of weird, but again, it's kind of neat. We then play 1 copy of Cloudy Canvas. Cloudy Canvas gives the monster to banish itself and then target 1 face-up card on the field and half its attack, which is pretty cool. It's a quick effect as well. And then we play a single copy of Rainy Canvas. Rainy Canvas lets you banish it to return a spell or trap your opponent controls to the hand. And then we play a single copy of Sunny Canvas as well. Sunny Canvas lets you quick effect banish itself and then target 1 monster you control. Quick effect tribute that target, and then if you do special summon the weather card from your hand or graveyard, but not with the same name as the tributed monster on the field. And then I play 3 copies of Valhalla as well. Valhalla comes in super handy because you want to get multiple weather monsters on the field so you can get multiple effects off. And plus, a lot of them just are really good to get out on the field with Valhalla. So you play them at 3. So that's it for the monster, or that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps, which you do play quite a few traps in the deck, because the deck really wants to control the board. So we play 3 copies of Drowning Mirror Force, which our opponent does attack directly usually, because we usually don't have monsters on the field when our opponent's turn rolls around. So you just drop the Drowning Mirror Force to deal with your opponent, because when an opponent's monster goes direct attack, you shuffle all monster your opponent controls into the deck. So it doesn't just put them in the hand, it puts them back in the deck. We then play 3 copies of the Weather Canvas Rainbowed Canvas. This card's really good because you only use the effect of it once per turn, and if your opponent controls a monster, quick effect, you can banish the monsters that point to this card or this card's above, like in position. Like if this is position 3, you can banish in position 3, 2, or 4, whichever one you have, you can banish. And then if you can banish it to special summon a weather monster from your deck with a different name. So it lets you tag in a different one, which is usually going to be Aurora. I really wish that they would give us the red one, because that's the only one we're missing. Then we play 3 copies of Thunder Canvas. Thunder Canvas is probably the best one because it lets you return a monster, your opponent's monster, to the hand. So basically you banish your monster and your monsters become compulsory evacuation devices. You banish your opponent, you bounce your opponents and you banish yours, and then yours comes back and theirs doesn't because they have to use resources to get it back. So Thunder, in my opinion, is probably the best one in the entire deck because it continues to bounce stuff over and over again, and this is the way right here that the deck really functions. Like you get searches off the spells and special summons off the spells, and you get searches and special summons off the monsters, but Thunder Canvas and Drowning Mirror Force and the Rainbowed Canvas, these are the best cards in the entire deck. So that's it for, and well, the Snowy Canvas and the Snowy are probably really good too, but this is how the deck really fights back. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 2 copies of the Weather Painter Rainbow. This card's kind of neat. I don't summon it that often, but it comes up sometimes. But what it does is when your opponent would special summon a monster's quick effect, you can send this link summoned card to the graveyard to negate the activation, which is pretty good just to negate the activation. And if you do, destroy that monsters. And then once per turn during your standby phase, after this card was banished from the field to activate the effect of the weather cards, you can special summon this banished card. And you only use your effect once per turn. And then when a card or effect is activated, quick effect, you can banish this card to negate the activation if you destroy it, which is pretty good. I like that effect. That basically, if it points to it, then you can get that effect to be able to just banish and destroy something, which is really, really, really good. I then play a single copy of Topologic Zero Boros. Zero Boros comes in handy because you banish a lot in this deck, and plus, it's not that big of a deal if I lock down a zone because it's just not. And I can put a bunch of monsters on the field, and it locks down essentially 2 of my opponent's zones as well, because if they special summon to a zone this card points to, you banish every card on the field, and then my cards recur and special summon back, which is pretty good. We then play a single copy of Boros Orb to help us OTK. Access Code Talker just to help us because we have plenty of cards that we can banish off the Access Code Talker effect. Appaloosa because you can get just a bunch of negates on this card, and it's really easy to establish Appaloosa on maybe turn 2 or 3, which is just going to help us get rid of our opponents, what's left of their resources. Unicorn to be able to bounce stuff, Phoenix to pop spells and traps, Cerberus to pop monsters, a single copy of Herald of Mirage Light. You guys might be looking at this card and going, why are you playing that? Well, first off, it's an access code talker target because you've got light, earth, fire, dark, and you have other dark monsters in here and another fire monster in the extra deck that I haven't shown you guys yet. But if you use a fairy deck, when a spell is activated or effect is activated, you can quick effect send a fairy monster from your hand to the graveyard to negate the activation if you destroy it. And it has other ritual effects, but you're basically just looking at it for that first effect. Blockade Board Blocker, because it can get you your continuous spells back, like your copies of the Snowy Canvas. Alamirage, because it's really good because when you normal summon, you can just get rid of it and then summon Alamirage if you need to protect another monster. Phantom Knight of Breaksword, because everything's a level 3 and you can pop stuff. Levenair, the Sea Dragon, just in case one of yours gets banished and you can't get it back, you got Levenair to get it back if you need to. Super Quantum Mecha Beast Grampulse to pop spells and traps as well for being a 2800 body. If your opponent's got something that's bigger than Phoenix and you don't want to discard, you can just summon this in defense position and then pop a spell or trap, and it's a big, card to deal with. So it's still a pretty good card to special summon to your side of the field. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a really fun deck to play around with. The deck is just really, really interesting, that the mechanic of the way that it plays. I really wish that they give us, again, the red one, because we have every other color. We're just missing that red one, because you have the yellow, you have the orange, you've got green, bluish, you've got green, you've got blue, and you've got the other green that you have in the deck, but you're missing, oh, and you had that color blue, so you're missing, if you can notice, there's actually 7 on her, so there's 1 right there, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have Snow, which is 6, so you are actually missing 1 monster out of the entire archetype and 1 canvas, which gives us a little bit more potential for future deck profiles for the deck. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on the so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And don't forget to check out that Patreon. See you later, guys.